Hi everyone, my name is Amor De Libasic. I'm a financial advisor with over a decade of experience, and today I'm going to explore the top 5 mistakes that might be holding you back from building real, lasting wealth. Now, as a financial advisor, I've seen these pitfalls time and time again. Today, I want to highlight some eye-opening research and hard data that show just how crucial it is to avoid these traps. Let's dive in. One of the most common ways that I see people sabotage their path to wealth is through running most of their purchases and expenses through credit cards. Now, the issue with this is clearly identified in a study from MIT. Specifically, Drazen Prelec and Duncan Semester found that individuals are willing to pay up to 83% more when utilizing a credit card instead of cash for the very same item. And the reason for this is that paying with a credit card reduces the pain of paying, making it all too easy to swipe now and worry later. If you think about it, casinos do the exact same thing. They don't allow you to gamble with cash on the table. First, you have to convert your cash to plastic chips, and then the bets can be placed with those chips. A credit card places a division between you and your finances in 2 specific ways. The first thing it does is you have a very easy non-cash mechanism to facilitate a payment. The second is that the pain of letting go of your cash is up to 55 days later. The distance between the action of purchasing and the actual benefit of receiving the item or service, and then the pain of having to actually give up your money to pay that card, is just too far apart. It doesn't allow your brain to effectively connect the two and learn the difference between the value of what you're spending and the cost of what you're actually paying for it. Utilizing a credit card in this way is a blocker to helping you manage your money. According to the Reserve Bank of Australia, our national credit card debt hovers at around $17 billion in total. A significant portion of that accrues in interest charges every month, which can easily balloon if left unchecked. However, even if you're paying off your credit card within the interest-free period, simply utilizing it is encouraged you to spend more than you otherwise would have. And so it's something to be very careful of utilizing in your day-to-day life. A second pitfall is not paying enough attention to your superannuation. For Australians, super is typically the second largest asset after your home, but a lot of people let it sit on autopilot for decades. According to a recent report by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, over 40% of Australians are unaware of the fees charged on their super, and many don't know their exact superannuation balance or even how it's invested or with whom it's invested. The majority of clients, when I ask them, "How is your superannuation invested?" tell me they simply don't know. Now that's a huge missed opportunity, because every fraction of a percent you save in fees and every strategic contribution you make can compound over the years. For instance, only a small increase, like a 1% increase on your contributions relative to salary in your 20s or 30s, could mean tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars more in your superannuation fund by the time you retire. Data from SuperGuide also suggests that Australians who actively choose a higher growth investment option within their superannuation when they're younger often end up with significantly larger balances over the long term, compared to those who just remain in the default or conservative settings. The 15-year return data suggests that a balanced fund will return 6.4% per annum, while a growth fund returns 8.5% per annum. If we extrapolate that, comparing a 30-year-old with $100,000 in superannuation and look at a balanced or growth investment, a balanced investment is expected to be worth $626,725, whilst the growth fund is expected to be $962,437. That's an extra $335,712 at retirement without any extra contributions, just as a function of picking a different investment mix. Now, be careful. You have to consider your investment mix in conjunction with other factors such as your age, risk tolerance, and what you're trying to achieve. A high growth approach is not going to be appropriate for everyone, but this fact does illustrate the significant difference and change that you can make in your superannuation outcome through your investment mix. Making these decisions 5 or even 10 years earlier for many can make a world of difference. The third mistake is not leveraging, or at least considering leveraging, the equity in your home. Now, equity is built up when the value of your home increases relative to the value of your debt. Typically, over time, properties go up in value whereas debts go down, and so equity positions are developed. A 2022 housing report from CoreLogic shows that the median property value in Australia has more than doubled in the last 20 years, even with some market downturns along the way. That growth can translate into sizable equity if you've owned your home for a while. Now, I'm not saying that you should rush out and leverage your equity blindly. Any borrowing has to be done thoughtfully and with a proper plan in place, as well as a good understanding of the risk that you're engaging in if you choose to release that equity to invest in a further property or potentially a portfolio of investments. Now, for many people, leveraging their property can be an avenue which allows them to access investments earlier, and over the long term, the returns on those additional assets can potentially accelerate your journey towards financial independence. According to the Australian Institute of Superannuation Trustees, a 35-year-old still has approximately 30 years plus of potential wealth accumulation ahead of them. That's a long runway to recover from market dips and benefit from market gains. And so if you stay too conservative and don't even consider whether or not the equity in your property is a resource you might want to utilize, you might be losing and leaving big opportunities on the table, especially during your peak earning years. The fourth mistake is failing to understand tax and therefore overpaying it. Now, the more that you understand about tax, fundamentally, the less you're going to pay. And many people misunderstand their tax obligations and therefore end up paying more than they should. A Deloitte survey found that 1 in 3 Australians don't claim all the deductions that they're legally entitled to, often because they don't know which expenses can be deducted. For many Australians, a simple example is something like superannuation contributions. Making extra contributions to your superannuation can lower your taxable income and boost your retirement savings at the same time. Others might miss claiming legitimate work-related expenses or rental property costs, and these things can significantly reduce your taxable income. The Australian Taxation Office has extensive guidelines on what you can claim, and a knowledgeable accountant or tax agent can help you navigate this. Even small optimizations can add up to thousands of dollars a year, money that could go straight onto your investment portfolio or paying down your home loan debt instead of into the government's coffers. The fifth mistake is failing to create and maintain a clear financial plan. A study by Northwestern Mutual in the United States found that approximately 62% of Americans say that their financial planning needs improvement, and there's a lack of strategy which they feel leads to higher levels of stress and lower savings rates and investing. Although this goal is from overseas, the principle holds true in Australia and in many other places. If you don't set targets, create a budget, and measure your progress, you're unlikely to actually achieve your goals, and you're more likely to drift off course. A good financial plan acts like a GPS for your money. First, you identify your destination. Maybe it's buying a second property, paying off high interest debt, or achieving a certain retirement balance. Next, you map out a path to get there. That includes short-term goals like building an emergency fund, mid-term goals like investing in shares or property, and longer-term goals like having enough in superannuation to fund your retirement lifestyle. Even if you make detours along the way, changing jobs, starting a family, or facing market hiccups, you'll still have a roadmap to guide you back on track. By being mindful of these 5 mistakes, credit card spending, ignoring your super, avoiding home equity opportunities, paying too much on tax, and not having a structured financial plan, you're already taking big steps towards building and preserving wealth. It's not about drastic changes overnight. It's about incremental improvements that stack up over years and decades to push you towards the financial outcomes that you want. Thank you so much for watching. Remember that this information is general and for education purposes only, so be sure to talk to a qualified financial advisor for tailored advice specific to your needs. I hope today's discussion has given you a fresh perspective on how you can avoid the major financial pitfalls that we see across people that we work with. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more insights. Share your own experiences in the comments below. What challenges have you faced and what have you done to overcome them? If you've got any specific questions, leave them in the comments and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. Thank you.